Jaha, ja, det förstår jag.
Live is a perfect thing.
Det är bra att prata lite i början.
Så det här kommer... Ska vi bara se att den tänds upp här. Så du ser att den tänds där. Så där Daniel, nu tror jag faktiskt att Vinkoll är helt live.
Ja, men det är vi.
Och för första gången på väldigt länge så sitter vi faktiskt bredvid varandra. Det är inte så vana vid.
Nej, men det är väl trevligt.
Mycket trevligt.
Ja.
Och som ni ser så vi är faktiskt i Stockholm hemma hos dig Daniel.
Till och med det.
Sitter vid ditt matbord och ska prova lite härliga viner tillsammans med er.
Yes.
Jag tycker vi kör igång.
Ja, absolut. Varför inte?
Vi gör det. Och det viktiga är ju att ni som kikar nu att ni verkligen ställer frågor och kommentarer. För då kommer du att snappa upp dem här och hjälpa till och svara på dem.
Självklart. Som vanligt. Ingen fråga är dum.
Nej.
Utan det är bara att ställa på.
Och Vinkoll då lite snabbt. Världens bästa vågar jag säga i alla fall. Världens bästa app för att hålla koll på vinprovningar och få lite vintips och liksom få lite koll på vad som händer i världen. Så har ni inte laddat ner den så gör det helt enkelt. Men ikväll så ska vi faktiskt prata engelska. Vi ska vända oss alldeles strax till Kapstaden och ha finbesök, eller hur?
Verkligen.
Vi ska bege oss ner till Reyneke Wines och där kommer vi ha Barbara med oss som är vinmakare. Ni ska få träffa henne och prata med henne. Och vi ska prova 2 stycken viner tillsammans med henne ikväll. Behöver man veta någonting mer nu när vi är live så här eller vad säger du?
Nej, bäst att man ska luta sig tillbaka, njuta och helst prova med oss om man hade möjligheten. Men annars så är det bara att suga in all information för att jag lovar att hon sitter på mycket intressanta grejer.
Det är alltid kul att snacka med den som har gjort vinet ju.
Ja, men det är ju guld.
Ska vi släppa in henne då? Ja.
Det tycker jag.
Då kör vi. So, calling Cape Town and welcome Barbara.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
How's your Swedish, by the way?
Oh no, non-existent.
No, we're so happy to have you on the Vinkoll show, and the fact that this is live is it's really fun. And during the COVID, we did a lot of wine tasting online and follow people, but nowadays it's not that common. But here we are.
No, I think it's a fantastic thing to do.
Yeah. So tonight we broadcast this live over Facebook, and there are people, I guess, mainly in Sweden. We don't know, but from all over the world, hopefully, but that are able to try the wines with us, but also ask lots of questions to you, Barbara. Are you ready for all of these questions?
I'm ready. I'm born ready. The more questions, the better.
Nice.
So before we dive into the wines, you are now in Cape Town, correct?
Yes.
Or are you at the winery in Stellenbosch, or?
No, so I'm currently at my home in Cape Town. It's a bit dark at the winery currently. We're busy. I think at the winery we've got a bit of load shedding. So if I had to do it at the winery, I'd be sitting in the dark.
And load shedding, for most Swedes are not aware of load shedding. Can you just what that is?
Oh, it's this fantastic phenomenon in South Africa where they tend to cut our power for a few hours and then turn it back on again because we don't have enough of it. So it's something we've fascinatingly kind of just learned to live with. I think as South Africans, we're quite tenacious. And now we just joke about it, but it is very problematic. But so there's no power at the winery currently. So that's why I'm sitting here in my flat in Cape Town doing the tasting.
So if you disappear, if you suddenly disappear, it's probably because the power's gone.
Exactly. Let's hope that won't happen. It should not, if they stick to the schedule.
Exactly. Last year, I was very fortunate to visit South Africa for the first time in Stellenbosch and also Reyneke Wines. But Daniel, you have not been to Stellenbosch yet.
Not yet, exactly, unfortunately. But I'm looking forward to it.
So maybe, Barbara, you can just share Stellenbosch. Can you give us, for those who haven't been there, what is Stellenbosch really?
Yeah, so Stellenbosch is probably one of the oldest towns within South Africa. It's about 60 kilometers from Cape Town inland. And it's this beautiful town surrounded by all these mountains. And it's kind of seen as the heart of the South African wine industry. It's probably one of the biggest wine regions within South Africa, or the most famous one at least. And the whole of Stellenbosch kind of wine industry is surrounded by, it all rotates around these mountains and these outcroppings on these mountains. So it's this beautiful kind of quaint historic town, and it has this ability to make this amazing wines, and it's quite amazing also just the diversity of what you get.
Which we're going to try tonight. Not the full diversity, but we're going to try 2 different wines from
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Reyneke, very beautiful place as well.
Sorry, say that again.
Very beautiful place, as you said, with the mountains, and it's really beautiful. I just fell in love the first time I went there.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I'd say that, but I think I'm biased because I live there, so I can't say it's extremely beautiful because I don't think everybody would trust me.
Well, if anyone doubts, just go there. Simply said.
Exactly.
And I also know the history of wines is quite long in Stellenbosch, and as you said, lots of the great wines from South Africa comes from Stellenbosch. So, or maybe back to Reyneke Wines. Have you been there all your life, or?
Yeah, so I grew up in Stellenbosch. I studied there, and now I work there. So I am, to an extent, a small town girl. I currently live in the city, which is something new for me. Luckily, Cape Town is quite close to Stellenbosch, so my commute is not too long. But Stellenbosch it's really a lovely place, and Reyneke has got its beautiful little spot within Stellenbosch. So if you speak about Stellenbosch kind of concentrated towards the wine regions, you get it's divided into these wards, and Reyneke Wines is situated on the ward called the Polka Dry Hills.
Say that again?
So most of these wards are surrounded by mountains. I think Reyneke is one of the few that's on an outcropping of a mountain, so it's not necessarily on the side of a mountain. But what that gives us is these beautiful kind of decomposed granitic soils, which is quite unique to our site. And we are also a bit closer to the ocean when you compare it to kind of the rest of the region.
And can you say the name again, which you said very nicely and quick, which was difficult for us to pronounce, I guess. What was the name of the word?
Polka Dry Hills.
Polka Dry Hills.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's from there used to be an old road that used to meander along these hills, and there's a dance in South Africa called the polka, but it's got a lot of turns in it.
Yeah, no, we're familiar with polka, but are you a good dancer?
Not really, but I know that there is a dance called polka.
The polka. So the idea was this ward got its name. Actually, the region got its name from all these turns in this road, kind of meandering around these hillsides, and then from the polka dance.
Nice.
Yeah, no, it's and I think I told you before, Barbara, or at least told you, Daniel, when I arrived in South Africa last year, the first thing I did off the plane out to Reyneke farm and to see this beautiful landscape, which was really, I think I said I had to pinch myself in the arm, like not just that it was beautiful, but also that it was Reyneke, and the fact that I got to meet, Mr. Reyneke, Johan Reyneke, because Reyneke, it's a last name, right?
Yes, so it's named after kind of the proprietor or the founder of Reyneke, Johan Reyneke. Extremely amazing gentleman. He started a whole movement within South Africa that's kind of come off the back of Reyneke, and it's just an amazing gentleman. I think Marcus, you'll definitely agree, seeing as you have met him before.
Yeah. Yeah, so you have lots of things to do.
I do. Yeah.
And I think some people that actually watch this live, they were probably with me or with us during this trip. I can see a few names at least that joined me that evening that I talked about. So it's nice to see see you joining us online tonight as well. But Barbara, tell us. So, what sort of wines are Reyneke making? Because we have 2 wines here, but you do more wines than just these 2, correct?
Yeah, so we do more than these 2. So we've got the 2 wines we've got are from 2 of our ranges. So the first one is from our organic range, which is it's more of our commercial offering that we have. And how that came about is actually quite interesting. So Johan probably he wouldn't like it if I stated like this, but it is true. He started the whole organic movement and biodynamic movement within wine in South Africa, and he's really been the flag bearer for it. And it's amazing because if you speak to him, it's something he lives. He truly believes in it, and he's made a lot of mistakes along the way, but he's kind of learned through them, and he's paved the way for other people to kind of move into the same direction. So this range, our organic range, originated from that. We wanted to try and get more people to convert to organics because we truly believe that it is the right thing to do. So with that, we had a few wine farmers that came up to Johan and said, listen, they're interested, but they're not quite sure. And then he said, okay, well, I'll help you convert, and then we can also have an outlet for your grapes or for your wine. And that's where this range kind of came about. And then above that,
when was this in time? Or how many years ago, or was it a long time ago?
This must have been around 10 years ago that this initiative started. So Johan's been farming the way he does. He started around 20 years ago. But I think the first 2 years was a lot of trial and error and a lot of battling. If you speak to him, he'll tell you the first vineyard he converted, every single thing went wrong. So he got every pest, every plague, every disease. And he went to, back at that stage, he still delivered the grapes to the local co-op. And the guy who was supposed to drive the grapes down to the co-op refused. He said he's not delivering these grapes. And then Johan said, okay, he'll do it. So he got on the tractor with these grey, moldy grapes in the back, trying to convince the local co-op to actually take the grapes. So we've come a long, long way from that. Learned a lot of lessons. I think one of the most important lessons Johan learned was what kind of he did back then is he met this lady, and she just told him, listen, what you are doing at the moment is you are farming organically by neglect. You should change that. You should start farming organically by design, because if you just leave nature's going to take over. And that's really truly what happened in the first year. So Johan started changing a bit the way he thought about it, and then he started converting the entire farm. And then he started slowly but surely building on it each year and each year. And it's fascinating to see 20 years down the line, we still see an increase in quality year after year after year, just as kind of the soil builds and builds and builds on itself, and we get better and better at what we're doing. So that's kind of our organic range. Then we have what I like to call our estate range. So it's all the grapes that come from the farm that are farmed by Johan. They're farmed according to the biodynamic principles. And within that range, we've got a Sauvignon Blanc, we've got a Chenin Blanc, which is also an amazing wine because it's made from our 2 old vineyards on the farm. Then we have a Syrah and the Cornerstone, which we're going to try a bit later. And the Cornerstone is a blend of Cabernet Franc and Cabernet Sauvignon. So we've got a bit of everything. I think in South Africa, we've started to become a lot more focused with what to plant where and what works best in certain areas. But it took a bit of trial and error from our side. So we know, for instance, the Cornerstone used to have Merlot in it. Merlot does not work on our property, so we don't have Merlot anymore. It's for some reason it just never worked. With our proximity to the ocean and that cool ocean breeze that we have, it works very nicely with the Sauvignon Blanc. We tend to create quite a unique style of Sauvignon Blanc. And I think Chenin Blanc is like South Africa's workhorse. I haven't tasted a Chenin from anywhere in South Africa that doesn't work. It's a bit like a chameleon. It just adapts to wherever it goes.
Maybe there's a chance
then,
for Daniel and myself to become winemakers, and then we should start with Chenin Blanc in South Africa. Then.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no, definitely.
Yeah.
And then Syrah, I think with our decomposed granite soils that we have on Reyneke, it works so lovely with Syrah. And also because of the cooler influence, you tend to get kind of the finer, lighter side of Syrah that gets expressed. And then with the Bordeaux varieties, we've slowly but surely moved more and more to Cabernet Franc, because we've also realized that just works better for us on our property. And then Cabernet Sauvignon as well, but I tend to work quite lightly with it because we tend to get some austerity in the wines. So I work very lightly with it to kind of preserve the elegance within it.
So why don't we try some wine?
Yeah,
isn't that a good start?
Sure.
And
I think it's a fantastic start.
Just before we actually got tonight's first question for you, Barbara.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and it's actually not about the specific wine, but it's more about you and maybe your job. But so it's Gun that's asking, like, what your job consists of. She asks if it's mostly the chemistry and the mixing of the wine, or if you're actually like hands-on also in the vineyards.
So my job is probably more in the cellar, but look, the way I like to see it, wine gets made in the vineyard. So we've got an amazing farmer, Sean. I think you get people that are just farmers by nature, and Ishan is one of those people. He lives for it. It's his passion. He wakes up every morning before the sunrise. He goes to bed after sunset, but his whole day just consists of Reyneke and the farm, and he's excited about everything that's happening on the farm.
Wow.
So Johanna's got this amazing saying where he says horses for courses, and Ishan is such a good farmer. I won't really get involved in what he does, but I do believe in staying in the loop. So kind of when it's pruning time, I like to kind of stand in the vineyard and speak to him and kind of see kind of what methods he's putting in for pruning. During the growing season, I'll walk through the vineyards with him many times just to kind of see how the vineyards are developing. But most of the time, I probably spend in the cellar. That is my main job, and it's probably what I enjoy the most as well.
Right. It's always interesting to get an insight into the life of a winemaker.
Exactly, and this is what comes out of the cellar at the end, right? So
exactly.
We should try now the Reyneke Organic from the organic range, the 2021 Sauvignon Blanc, as we say in France, but you say Sauvignon Blanc, right?
Yes, we've got a very horrible way of pronouncing it. I tend to get French interns that come and help in the cellar. When I speak about the wines, they just look at me and they shake their heads.
No, I like it.
Yeah, I mean that's how you would, I guess. C is pronounced K mostly in Swedish as well. So.
Well, now we're having Sauvignon Blanc at least.
Yeah.
So we put together some facts about this wine, which we're going to show. But before we try it, maybe Barbara, you can take us through the wine. So how is this made? Simply said.
Yeah, so this is our first vintage of Sauvignon Blanc for the organic range. So it used to be a blend of Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. We changed that for 2021. And just because we realized from a commercial sense, especially because a lot of this wine gets sold in South Africa and people don't really understand Semillon, which is actually quite sad. But so this is the first year where it's a straight Sauvignon Blanc. And here, because it's the first vintage we did, it's actually all grapes that come from the farm and that are made in our cellar. So here it's all destemmed grapes that I press, and then it goes into either stainless steel or very older oak. And it goes in natural fermentation, and then it kind of stays in stainless steel and oak for about 6 months on its lees before it gets a rack, and then its first dose of sulfur, and we'll start stabilizing and getting it to bottles. So the way I like to think about wine is it's especially if you're lucky enough to work with the kind of grapes that I do, it's sad if you have to overwork the wine or overdo it. So I try and stay as hands off as I possibly can to try and really showcase the farm and the area and the way we farm.
Yeah. And for those who just listened to this and can't see it, this is the Reyneke Organic Sauvignon Blanc, and in the Swedish retail or the monopoly, the what do you call it? Article number, or it's 57954, and it's 139 Swedish kroners.
Yeah, and currently it's vintage 21 that is offered.
Yes, and it's in the ordering assortment, so you have to order it and then pick it up a few days later.
Yeah.
I think this is on the nose. It's lovely. So let's give it a try. Do you also have the wine at hand, Barbara? Or
yes, I do. I come prepared.
And hopefully the live participants also can try this together with us.
Yeah, and of course, feel free to share your comments of the wine. We are more than glad to hear what you think and what you can find in the wine in terms of aromas or other findings.
I'm a Sauvignon Blanc fan, so this is really up my street. It's really fresh, really nice. I'm gonna look at your face now and see your expressions.
Yeah,
acidity is really nice. You can see he's just
exactly, but it's not overpowering in any way. So it's very nice.
Yeah, I think because we don't I don't work too reductively with the wine in the cellar, and then with that I think you get more of the citrus fruit that comes out compared to kind of the traditional tropical fruit that you tend to get in Sauvignon Blanc, especially kind of more commercial style South African Sauvignon Blanc that this will probably compare to. And then with that also you get the acidity, but it's not that necessarily piercing acidity that you tend to get a lot of times in Sauvignon Blanc. There is a coating to it. It is slightly rounder, and which gives the wine, I believe, a very nice drinkability.
Yeah, very much so. I think it's more it's round, even though it has the acidity too.
Acidity is nice, very nice. I think people will enjoy this a lot.
For sure, yeah. And we discussed, I mean, in terms of food pairings, do you have a favorite food to eat with this?
With this, yes. For me, a shellfish works very nicely with this wine. Kind of if you think kind of like a lovely mussel with a white wine sauce, or in South Africa we get crayfish, which would also go amazingly with this, or a richer fish like a salmon or a tuna or something along those lines.
Nice.
And surprise, surprise, or at least to me, Daniel's wife was very kind. Did you plan this, by the way? Or was it, or she planned it without your knowledge?
Yeah, kind of.
So she actually prepared 2 plates of salmon for us. I don't want to put this in my lap, but it's really nice. So she did a great job. Let's try this together with the wine.
Exactly.
Sorry, we can't share a piece with you.
No, it's okay. I'll be honest, I'm a bit jealous of your pairing you've got there, but
we're just quiet and happy. That's a good sound, no?
It makes me happy.
Yeah. So I can just for the viewers, if they want to make something similar, this is actually raw salmon. So it's salmon tartare, and there's some different ingredients. There's the wasabi cream. There's some fresh green apples. There's hazelnut actually, and there's also some Gruyere cheese to it.
So we have to stay on to this dish for the next 20 minutes. It's lovely, and it goes really well with the wine.
It does.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, salmon was a good pairing suggestion for sure.
Hopefully there's someone at home that they don't have the salmon, I guess, but at least try the wine. And I think for 139 kronas, this is a very good Sauvignon Blanc.
It is.
And yeah, great job. I like the acidity and the roundness.
Yeah.
No, it's great.
So would you like to hear what the people at home think?
Yes, don't you?
Yes, I'd love that.
Of course. So Gun, she said she actually tried the wines even earlier today before we started when they had their dinner. So they had this with chicken. They actually tried both wines with the same dish. So they had it with a barbecued chicken. They had a bit of tzatziki and the potatoes with that, and they thought both the wines worked really well with that food.
Okay.
That's fantastic.
Mm.
But I can see how both wines would work with a pairing like that.
Mm. Yeah, and I guess queuing is quite common in South Africa as well, isn't it?
Oh, it's a very famous pastime. If you don't do it at least once a week, you're not really a South African.
Nice.
Maybe you have some South African genes because I think you barbecue a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
People laugh at me when it's snowing and I'm barbecuing, but yeah. It has
Well,
to
then you definitely should come and visit. You'll have a good time.
Cool. And just before we go on to the red wine, is there a way to explain what organic means? Because I know it means so many. But is there sort of a, how do you say, an elevator pitch, as we say in Swedish?
Yeah, so it's the basic principles behind organics is to try and avoid using synthetic chemicals as much as possible. So for instance, in the vineyards, we don't spray pesticides, we don't spray herbicides. The only fungicides that we can use are kind of natural based ones, so it's sulfur or copper sulfate. And then in the cellar itself, it's the same principles. So it's trying to work with as much natural based products as possible. So that's organics in a nutshell. There's a bit more behind it when it comes to kind of sustainability, but that's the gist of it.
No. Good.
Yeah. And I guess you can see on the bottle there's a different markings, right, to tell you that it's organic or.
Yes, so there's a green leaf on it. I think that's the EU marking that you get.
Yeah.
And that's just to say that it's a certified organic product, that we do go through a certification system, that people do come and they verify to check that what we say we do, we actually really do.
Which is good.
Yeah,
which people and consumers like.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, exactly.
Great. Should we move on to the wine that made me discover Reyneke, meaning the Cornerstone? And it's
Cornerstone.
Yeah, there's a story behind it, and the name Cornerstone, correct?
Yes, so this wine is it's a really special wine for us at Reyneke. It's more for what it symbolizes than anything else. So the name, it started with when Johan kind of decided he wanted to convert the farm to organics. So when he was a student, he had to kind of make his own pocket money. But back then he had very long dreadlocks and he looked a bit scruffy, so he couldn't get a job as a waiter in a restaurant. So the only job he could get to earn his extra pocket money was to work as a laborer on the farm. And back then he studied environmental ethics, and he said kind of what he was doing during the day did not coincide with what he was studying in the evening. So in the day, he'd kind of put in these hazmat suits and get on a tractor and start spraying these vineyards with these very poisonous chemicals. And that just didn't sit right with him. And during wintertime, they'd go pruning in the vineyards, and he'd prune with all these other vineyard workers. And it would be so cold that Johan would go and he'd put on a surfing wetsuit just to stay hot, just to stay warm during this pruning weather.
Wow.
And these other fellow workers with him didn't have enough money for enough warm clothes, so they take newspaper and roll it up and stuff it in their clothes just for extra insulation during this cold weather.
Wow.
So those are kind of the two things that just didn't sit right with Johan. So then initially he started converting the farm to biodynamics, but something that also bothered him was these people that work in these vineyards that live in such absolute poverty, and he really wanted to do something to change that, to try and uplift these people out of poverty to an extent. And that's where the Cornerstone project comes in. So we truly believe that everybody who works at Reyneke, they form the cornerstone of the business. I mean, without any of these people, the business would not exist. So how it works, if you work for Reyneke for 10 years, you can benefit from this project. So you're either eligible for a house or a tertiary education for one of your children.
Wow.
And this gets funded by the sales of the Reyneke wine. So a portion of the sales all go into this project, and that's kind of our little bit that we do just to help uplift some of these people.
That's a great cause, and that's really, I don't think most people know that. Or did you know?
No, I had no idea.
No. Yeah, so thanks for sharing that. That sort of feels good. Extra
Yeah,
good.
that's a really nice idea. Sure.
Look, I think as us in South Africa, we've really got a horrible history, and it's unfortunately it's changed. What happened in the past is changing at too slow of a pace, and it's difficult because if you sit with a capitalist mindset and the way businesses work, it's a bit of a slippery slope. So I think if you can do anything to kind of try and just reshape the path, it does help.
So this wine has been made. What's the first vintage? Do you know?
The first vintage was 2010, I believe.
Okay, so it has raised quite some money for this good cause then.
Yeah, so we have what was it, a month ago? Andre Jacobs, who's one of the workers on the farm, he moved into his new house, which was very exciting. One of the ladies who works in the office with us, who kind of helps with our export admin, she managed to get a tertiary education through this project. Johan's currently busy putting one of his older employees' daughter. She's currently busy with nursing school. That's also kind of been funded out of this project.
Wow, good. That's good.
Yeah.
Have you tried the Cornerstone wine before?
I haven't.
No. Wow. So yeah, Barbara, how do you make this wine? How you said before it used to be some Merlot, or was it not in the Cornerstone, but now it isn't anymore? Now it's Cabernet Franc and Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah, so 2019 actually is the first vintage where there's no Merlot in the wine. I think 2018 we still had about 1%, but barely any. But before that, the blend kind of used to be a lot more Cabernet dominated, and then we had the Merlot in it. As I mentioned, Merlot, we just found out Merlot doesn't work on our property. I think Merlot prefers heavier soils, and our decomposed granite, it just never worked. So the wine would look very beautiful in its youth, but then as it aged in the blend, the Merlot would kind of start sticking out and age a bit prematurely compared to the rest of the blend.
Okay.
We've also got a bit smarter in how we make this wine. So kind of back when it started, it never used to have any new oak in it, and the wine was very, very, very austere for that. But we started introducing a bit of new oak more on the Cabernet Sauvignon, just to soften the tannins more than anything else. So it's not necessarily there to add flavor to the wine, but it's just to kind of break down that initial austerity within the wine. But yeah, so this vintage, it's Cabernet Franc dominated. It's 75% Cabernet Franc and 25% Cabernet Sauvignon. With the winemaking, once again, it's very straightforward. I tend to work a bit more precise when it comes to the Cabernet. but it's all destemmed. All the grapes go through a bunch sorting, and then the Cabernet Sauvignon, we do an additional berry sort on it, just to make sure that there are no green grapes or stems that end up in the fermentation. It all ferments in concrete tank. I work very lightly with it, so it only gets 2 pump overs a day, just to really give the wine a mix and give it some air and to check up on the fermentation. And then as Cabernet Franc, as soon as it's finished with fermentation, I press it. It gets a light settle in tank, and then it goes to barrel. So the Cabernet Franc is all second and third full oak. And then the Cabernet Sauvignon, I also don't like leaving it on the skins for too long. I might leave it for 2 to 3 days extra, but never much longer than that. And then the Cabernet Sauvignon also goes to new oak. And then this wine spends about 18 months in oak before we blend and then get ready for bottle.
Yeah, and on the screen here in Swedish, which is 18 months, but we're not entirely correct here because we say 25% in new and 75% in used French oak, but that's just part of the wine then, if I want to be fully correct, right? That's just the Cabernet Franc.
Yeah, so it is correct, because all the Cabernet Sauvignon is a new oak, so it is 25% new, and then the 75 is second and third full.
Okay, cool. And Daniel, then the Swedish monopoly number, Systembolag's number here is...
it's 73639, and you would then pay 199 kronor for this.
And now we're trying the vintage 2019.
Yeah. So since we always became quiet while doing that, so I actually have a question regarding the harvest of the grapes for this wine, because it's at least for me, it's very easy to just think about the seasons in Sweden and in Europe. But for you guys, when is your harvest season, and when are you finished harvesting the grapes in terms of during the year? When is your harvesting
So
season?
we just finished our harvest season. So we finished about a month ago. So at Reyneke, we're usually a bit earlier compared to the rest of Stellenbosch.
Okay.
So we tend to start kind of end of January, and then we finish here mid to end March, depending on the season.
And the vintage 2019, how was that? Do you remember? Was it
2019
or a difficult year or a cold year or?
It was 2019 was actually it was a very nice year. We had a few heat waves kind of coming through the season, but all in all, it also was an earlier year, which was quite nice. What I found is that if we tend to have earlier vintages, the quality tends to be very nice. I'm not quite sure what the reasoning is behind it, but it's just something that I've seen. And then in 2019, it was kind of the first year, because we had a very long drought in South Africa. And 2019 was kind of the year that the drought broke. So it was the first year that the vines actually got proper rainfall in kind of the last since 2015. So it was actually a very well balanced and well rounded year.
Good. So what do you think, or what?
This is really good.
Yeah.
I'm
No, but it's a very nice wine, and not just because of all the good cause, but on the nose, I think just as lovely. And I think maybe this goes wrong, but most Swedish people, for the red wines, this is a taste that sort of many people will like because it has fruit, it has oak, it has lots of flavor. It's but it's also very balanced. So this will, I think I can drink this, but also with the Swedish food or the more sort of typical Swedish food, this is a really good pairing. So maybe not with the salmon. What did the done here had chicken, right?
Yeah, exactly. They had chicken.
Yeah, the barbecue chicken.
The barbecue, yeah.
Exactly.
And again, this is quite young. I mean, 2019 is not that long ago, even nice. But here we said sort of the this could be saved for quite a few years. So we have up to 2026, but maybe you can save it for longer. Or what's your
Yeah, I do believe this wine should age a bit longer than that. It's definitely got potential for at least 10 years. I recently opened a bottle of our 2014 Cornerstone and was really surprised because that wine's almost 10 years old now. Just how beautifully intact it still was. And I think also if you have a kind of concentrate on the texture of these tannins, they're fine, but there is still kind of potential in it when it comes to aging.
Yeah. So we actually got another question about the aging. So do you have different wine that you make specifically for aging, and some wines, I guess in of the reds, that is more suitable for drinking young, or?
No, so I tend to make so my biggest goal when I make wine is to make a wine of purity. So I want to make a wine that reflects kind of Reyneke and reflects the site. With that, I think there's a natural ageability that comes in the wine, and that doesn't come from what I do in the cellar. I think that just comes from the farming and from the grapes themselves. But then again, something that I do use in my winemaking process, even though it's a lot less than what most people would use, is I do use a bit of sulfur dioxide. And the reason I use it is because I want the wines to have an aging potential. I want you to be able to take any of the Reyneke wines and leave them for at least 5 years, and they should still look great after 5 years' time.
Yeah, I mean you can already see on this one that you have some, I think, aging. I mean the color is already shifting a bit, but it's yeah.
Are you also trying the 2019, Barbara?
Yes, I've also got the 2019.
Nice.
Another question here about this very beautiful bottle. There's text on it. It's probably difficult to see through the camera here, but do you know what this means or what this text is?
It's the text is kind of it's trying to encompass the ideals of biodynamics. So it kind of speaks of the seasons, it speaks of the moon cycles, it speaks of the elements. And the idea is that the text kind of encompasses the way we farm, that it's not so much that you're farming a bit more with nature and with intuition compared to just following a set of rules or of suggestions made by a consultant. It's so that's kind of the real thing. I think the nicest thing, and it's something a lot of people miss because people don't read back labels anymore, which what I've realized. But I think the copy that's on the back of the Reyneke label kind of it sums up what we do so beautifully. And it's kind of it's our ethos just in a very short paragraph.
I think you agree, and the audience as well. It's two beautiful wines, and I've been lucky to try others of Reyneke wines, and in Sweden I think there's a total of 8-9 different wines available at the moment from Reyneke. So if you like this, try the other ones as well.
I have a couple in my cellar.
You do?
Yeah,
okay,
I do.
Let's go downstairs and, and check them out.
Oh, fantastic.
So if people travel to Stellenbosch in South Africa, is it just pay you a visit? It's easy, or you book that, and is it possible?
Yes, please. We'd love it if people come and visit us. We are quite a small operation, so it's about, I'd say the totality of the Reyneke team is about 13 people, and that includes vineyard staff and cellar staff and all of us. But anybody is always more than welcome. You're more than welcome to pop me an email, or to just ring the winery if you want to come past, or even just pop in.
Let's make that happen.
Perfect, because it sounds like at least Gun, who's watching, will be back doing after the summer.
Okay.
And we also have a shout out from Camilla here. She says she tried the reserved red from 2012 the other day, and it was magical, she said.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's really, really good to hear.
So what was wine
I like getting
for
feedback like
one?
that.
What? So there was the Reyneke.
She said it's 100% Syrah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
The reserved
that's
red.
100%
Yeah.
Reserve. Okay.
Yeah. So it's, and she believed, she asks if she's correct, but that you don't make that wine every year, or do you?
No, so the reserve Syrah we do. We've got a reserve Cabernet that we only release in special vintages.
Okay.
But the reserve Syrah we release every year.
Nice.
But from the organic range, there is a Syrah. There's a blend, isn't? Or am I wrong?
Yeah. So from the organic range, there are 2 red blends. The one is a Shiraz Cabernet, and then the other one is a Cabernet Merlot. And then from our Reyneke range, we have 2 straight Syrahs. So we've got kind of our Syrah that's a blend of all the Syrah vineyards we've got on the property, and then we've got the reserve Syrah, which is a special vineyard selection that we do separately.
Good.
Nice.
No, fantastic. And I was a fan before, but now I'm even more a fan. So, and I'm very happy that you took the time to explain a bit more about the wines and Reyneke. And I think you really like the Cornerstone. You like the Sauvignon as well, but
but this is definitely a new friend of mine for sure, and I'm even more looking forward to opening the bottles downstairs now.
No, but I think it's important for consumers as well to be aware of both sort of organic and also the greater cause behind the wines, especially Cornerstone, which is we're very happy to sort of share that story with people in Sweden. So hopefully more people will discover Reyneke wines and more people will visit you, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, we'd love that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's always great.
So you have to make us a final promise, I think, Barbara, and it's to send our regards and from the viewers and listeners to Johan and the team, and really sort of thank them and you too, of course, for making these wines and make the effort to get them all the way to Sweden. So thank you, Tuesday Wines as well, importer, of course. But send our regards. We were super happy to try the wines.
Oh no, I definitely will. No, you'd be very happy to hear that. And thank you for having me and listening to my stories and tasting the wines. It's always lovely to share these wines.
And before we say goodbye, let's check if there's a final question or comment, and then we'll jump onto our salmon here, right?
Yeah. I just got a comment from Renee saying that it's amazing wines, and she also had visited you in March. Maybe when you were there. Was that in March?
I was so focused on the wine. No, I was there in October,
Okay,
September,
yeah.
October.
So
but,
she was there at another time then. Yeah.
But anyway,
Okay.
for those who listen and watch this, we're actually organizing a trip to South Africa in September, October this year. So there's a chance. Go to Vincol and check it out, basically. Cool.
Nice.
I think that's it,
Fantastic.
Barbara, and hope to see you next time in South Africa, or if you come to Stockholm, you want to sit down with us and try the wines.
Oh, fantastic! No, it'll be. I look forward to seeing you all again. It's
Yeah. Good. And thanks everyone for watching, and have a great evening.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank everybody for their time, and thank you for having me once again. Enjoy the salmon.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.